not going to shake your hand because
No, that's all right. That's all right.
I don't have coronavirus, but there's a risk.
That's okay. I'm sorry I wasn't here before. I didn't realize you all were going to come inside. Certainly interested in hearing what your concerns are, and so I'm sorry you may have already told.
What's your name?
Deputy Chief
Clark.
Deputy Chief Clark. Camilla Sims. Nice to meet you.
But
Nice to meet all of you.
I wanted to come out and hear what your concerns are, and
I mean, can we
Sure.
stand here? Can
Sure,
we
sure.
have a civil conversation?
absolutely.
All right. So I was present on May 31st. Some of the people in this crowd were as well, and we were peacefully demonstrating. And we're not here to try to rip a job away from you or to, do any chaotic rioting or anything that would warrant any type of violent reaction. I didn't go to the University of Virginia, by the way.
I'm from Virginia or something.
I'm from Atlanta, the same street as Dr. King.
Okay.
And we were met with violence. We were not told to go home at 9 o'clock. We were not instructed by the police to go home at all. It was up to the citizens to find out whether or not there was a curfew, because there was not a legitimate ordinance that was sent around to the community in the way that a tornado warning would be ordered in Atlanta, where they sent the notifications of curfew around to everyone's phones within a 10-mile radius of the perimeter of the city. So there are a lot of inconsistencies in the statement that you made, and I'm not doing this to have like a public dispute, but I just want to let you know, because I don't know if you were instructed properly on what was going on, which is why you ordered a tear gassing or rubber bullets to be released onto the citizens, but we were peacefully assembling, and I'd like to know your reasoning directly as to why you chose to take the route you chose.
Sure. So, first off, it was never my intention to either gas or use force against people who were peacefully protesting. However, there was a emergency declaration and a curfew in place at that time. We worked with the city to get the message out, and if we can do better in that regard, I think we need to look at that and try to see whether we need to improve in that area. I do plan on, and I have already mentioned, I plan on trying to get the video out of what occurred so that people will get a chance to see the whole interaction and what transpired. So I'm planning on trying to do that sometime next week. You got to remember, it's a lot of video and a lot of things were going on. There's a lot of perspectives that were going on. And so I'm going to put that out. There's an investigation that's being conducted. That investigation will take, they've got up to 45 days to complete that investigation. And we're going to look at all aspects of it. And certainly if we can do better, we'll look to do better. If there were things that we made, mistakes that we made, I'm willing to acknowledge that. I can tell you I'm ultimately responsible for everything that happened there. And so I'm not trying to step away from that and shy away from that. If we made mistakes, I'm willing to say we made mistakes. But I do want to give the investigation the opportunity to work through all the facts, number one. And then secondly, there's always more perspectives than one. And so I'm glad you came in today, because I certainly want to sit down and hear what your perspective is. But then I want to check an opportunity to talk about what our perspective was and what we saw as well. And I want an opportunity for us to learn from the event and from others to learn from the event. So that's where we stand on it. As I mentioned a minute ago, we are planning on putting that video out, putting some video out next week. And there were mistakes that we made. If you're waiting for us to come out at the end of this thing and say we didn't do anything wrong, we were perfect in this thing, I tell you, that's not what's going to happen, because we see some opportunities to do things better. Some things that were reported initially were inaccurate, simply because inaccurate information got to me, and so I put that information out. I'm willing to acknowledge that now, and it's not going to change as we go through, the investigation. So that's where I stand on it. You have a right to be questioning what the police did and ask for answers. I'm going to give you those answers to the best of my ability. On some things we'll agree to disagree on, but at least you'll know at the end of the day why we made the decisions that we made. And I'd love to have more conversation with you at some other point where we can sit down and talk. But at this point, I think I've heard what your message is. Is that for me or did, okay, thank you, ma'am. And thank you all for coming. It's a public building, so you're welcome to stay for a while if you'd like. And again, thank you for coming.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Do we have the street cam footage or the drone footage from that night?
So there's a variety of different camera footage from that night, including some drone camera footage, some body-worn camera footage, some downtown camera footage. And so there's a lot of camera footage. There's some radio transmissions that went on that will help. Now there's so much body-worn camera footage there's so much camera footage that I couldn't possibly release all of it at one time. What I'll do is give you a compilation of, an overview of what occurred, and that should be sufficient to get the story out. At some point, all the the video will be made available, but for next week, I'm just trying to get together enough to show folks, general understanding of what happened.
May I ask that there be an unedited version, like from the hours of 9 p.m. to when the tear gas ended, that footage be unedited?
So there's different points of view, there's different advantage points where, so I'm gonna give out next week just a overview of what occurred, and then there'll be opportunity to get more video footage, but it's not, you're talking about 4 hours worth of 3 or 4 hours worth of footage. That's not reasonable. Listen, next week I'm gonna give you, work with me if you would.
I'm here with you.
Next week I'm gonna give you some footage, and then after that, if you want to sit down and talk, we can sit down and talk some more, and then the full results of that investigation will come out within 45 days of when it occurred, and we can continue to have conversation and dialogue.
May I ask that 4 hours is a long stretch, you're absolutely right. So what about 15 minutes?
Yeah, so let me get the video out next week, and then we can sit down and talk about additional video footage and things like that. Sure, let's talk about it, but let me get the initial one out. If that doesn't answer the questions, then we can talk about additional footage beyond that afterwards.
Is there a date for that?
I don't have a date. I've said that I'm trying to get it out early next week. As you can imagine, a lot has been going on right now. We've had some significant challenges, so I'd ask you to be patient and bear with me. But I do want to try to make sure that I've got that out at least by the end of next week, and hopefully earlier if at all possible.
Yeah. So how can we be verified that the narrative isn't going to be changed from the footage that you're releasing versus what the actual...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
How can we have verification that the footage that you're releasing doesn't change the narrative in a way that, that it represents you versus what the full unedited footage would represent?
We're not editing the film or anything like that. It's just a straight film. I do have some closed caption to explain what we were doing and what was happening at different times. What I would say is let's get past next week. Let's get the video. Let's look at it, and then let's go from there. After you've got that, if you're not satisfied and you feel like you want something different or you want something more, we'll have a discussion about it. Okay?
So is some of the street cam and drone footage going to be what is released next week? Or is it just body camera?
Next week, I'm trying to give a picture of what was going on that led up to the use of force. So there'll be a compilation of downtown cameras, body-worn camera footage, drone footage. Yes.
Well, here's my concern. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So, the mention of Boogaloo was brought up, and within 2.5 hours of being tear gassed, they weren't present. So I hope there isn't a compilation of their presence with the tear gassing, because they were completely gone from the scene by the time that happened.
I don't want to talk about the details of the information we had that suggested who was present or who wasn't present in that crowd. We were getting information, so some people might say they were, some people might say they weren't. We were working off the best information we had at the time. The Boogaloo were there that day, and we had credible information that there was a planned, there was some planning to loot and riot in Athens-Clarke County. Beyond that, who was there during the last few minutes of it? I don't have the identities of every person here, so there's no way I'm gonna confirm with certainty one way or the other. What I can say though is that an emergency declaration was put in place. The county put out information saying they needed people to leave. We waited from 9 o'clock until almost 12 o'clock before any action was taken. And we delivered a message in the drones and through social media that we are pretty certain was getting to at least some of the people that were on the ground there, because they were tweeting messages and texting that what we had, the information we had sent to them. And we had a commander and some officers try to walk up and talk to people. And so at that point, some people may say that they didn't get the message, but we felt confident that there was time. I don't want to continue to try to get into the, I don't want to seem defensive. Again, I've already told you that even with the results of this thing not being completed, I'm sure that we are going to, there's going to be things that we could have done better. I mean, if that's what you're looking for, you don't even have to wait for the film. You don't have to wait for the final report to come out. Our interest was in keeping people safe, keeping the city, the county safe, and making sure that there was no damage to, no loss of life and no damage to critical infrastructure downtown. And if there were people who were not agitators, and they were exposed to gas or inadvertently got caught up in it, then I'll offer an apology for that. I don't know.
Can we get that apology right now? Because there are.
I just said it. I don't know what else I can say. I said if there were people that were there that were peacefully demonstrating, that were not involved and not agitators, then you have my apology.
And would you be willing to make a public address later once the footage is released to the people with that same statement?
I've already said that publicly in a community forum with the mayor 2 days ago, and I'm willing to do that again.
Spin on it, though.
Say that again?
The heavy spin on it.
Well, listen. I said I was going to come out and talk to you because I really, first off, want to meet you. I want to hear your thoughts and your concerns, but I also want to let you know where I stand as the police chief in the very difficult job that where my officers and I had to do in a very difficult situation. Did we get it right? Did we do everything right? Probably not. Could we have done better? Yeah, we probably can. Can we talk about how we can prevent something like that from happening again and adjustments to our equipment, policy, practice, procedures? Yeah, let's talk about it. But at the end of the day, I've got to get the video out next week. After the video goes out next week, if you want to have time or an opportunity to sit down and talk, we can do that. And then when the report comes out at a later point, you'll have an opportunity to know what the results of that are as well. That's my contact information. Appreciate you all coming in, and I appreciate you, peacefully voicing your concerns this afternoon. So thank you much. Have a good evening.
It was all. Thank you. And we're not going to stop.